First on film and entertainment on the Sunday morning, the show of the year, because the best and worst movies of 2022 we are going to dissect today. Exactly. We have got the one and only Jackie Hamilton, the person who always likes to be right. Good morning, Jackie.
Good morning, Alex and listeners and other reviewers. Hope you're having a good morning today.
And apart from Jackie, we know this person never quite gets it right, but we excuse him all the time. Peter Krause, g'day.
Good day, Alex and everyone, and I never get it wrong.
Exactamundo. Now, Gregory King, the man who more than anybody else loves to talk football on this show. How are you doing?
As Billy Joel once said, Alex, you might be right, you may be wrong, it may be a lunatic you're looking for.
Thank you kindly. And a man who occasionally comes on, we wish he was here more often. He knows a lot about film, Fred K. Levitt. G'day, sir.
G'day, mate. How bloody hell are ya?
Yeah, exactamundo. Now, look, we've had the good fortune this week to see Avatar: The Way of Water. And it's been quite a wait, because it was one of these things that 13 years ago we saw this extraordinary motion picture, and we've been waiting for – this is the first of another 3 sequels beyond it. So there's 5 in the series as far as I'm concerned. So the next one – when is the next one, Fred? We're talking a year or 2 away, aren't we?
I think they made 2, 3, 4 and possibly 5 together.
But in terms of release, they'll drip feed it to us. It's not going to be another 13-year wait, though, which is the
no, I think it'll come out in the next 2 years, the next one.
So we saw this movie, and I've got to say that it's half an hour longer than Avatar. So it's a long sit, 3 hours and 12 minutes. That's the first question I'll put to you, Jackie. Did that trouble you, the fact that it was the length that it was?
I don't mind a long film, Alex. I can sit for that long and be fully engaged with a film for 3 hours.
The best place to see it is where we saw it. We're incredibly privileged.
3D.
Yeah, we're incredibly privileged, Greg, are we not, that we saw it at IMAX?
Not all of us saw it at IMAX.
Okay. So that's the place that I would highly commend to people to go along and see it. There's no screen like it. There's no sound like it. But to me, it's the bee's knees. And we're the only city that has an IMAX in Australia. So that's the reason I'm suggesting that, not to lord it over.
Really? Sydney doesn't have an IMAX?
No,
Next year.
They had one a couple of years back, or just before COVID, and they were meant to rebuild it, and obviously it's taken its time. So yeah, that's where it's happening. I presume it's in the same location, Peter. I don't know.
It is on Darling Harbour.
Yeah, on Darling Harbour. Yeah, okay. So let's be. Did we all love Avatar? I mean, I thought it was an extraordinary film. You didn't, or you did?
I did not like it.
Oh,
And I didn't either.
oh,
My God. Okay. Well, let's start with you, Fred. Why did you not like the original Avatar?
It's exactly the same as the first film.
No.
Exactly
I'm sorry. No, Fred. The original Avatar.
Oh, the original. I loved the original Avatar.
Okay. So Peter,
I disagreed with a lot of the initial responses from a lot of critics saying, "Oh, it was like Fern Gully and Dances with Wolves." Sure, yeah, the story shares quite a bit of similarities there, but it was such a revolutionary film in terms of visuals and Cameron gives you an experience you'll never forget.
James Cameron is a masterful filmmaker. So, sorry, Peter, are you saying to me, Pete, you did not enjoy the original Avatar, Peter Krause?
Not particularly. I always look for good story, and the original Avatar had a fairly mundane storyline. Yes, it was visually spectacular, but I just didn't like the story much at all, and I just could not stand seeing Sigourney Weaver smoking.
Oh, well, yes. That sort of bothered me too. But overall, I thought the film was amazing. Greg, did you love it or not, the first one?
I didn't mind the first one, but I thought it was a little bit long in the tooth.
So if you thought the first one was long in the tooth and this is half an hour longer, did that extra running time bother you?
I haven't seen this one yet, Alex.
Oh, you haven't? Sorry. I'm sorry, Greg. I had no idea you hadn't. Okay,
I sent you a message saying I haven't seen it.
I didn't receive the message. You're a St Kilda supporter. You're behind the rest of us. Hey, I've got football in there. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the Saints?
no.
Oh, okay, Jackie. That's fair enough. You don't have to. You can talk about Melbourne if you wish. Okay, so this franchise, I reckon, I mean, the whole idea is to mesmerize and excite, and I think it succeeds in doing it. And I mean, James Cameron doesn't do anything by halves. And once again, let's see whether those of us who have seen it can agree that he's excelled with his technological wizardry and special effects. Jackie, true?
Yes, absolutely, and not just that, but it's not just the technology; it's the input of everything like color and movement. And by taking it to the water this time, that gives the elemental thing as a whole new story again.
Yep. Okay. So, and Peter, you would agree that technologically, it's amazing.
Oh, look, but we expect
Okay,
good technology in films.
I'm going to dissect this piece by piece. So, okay, we might expect it, but we've got what we expect in that regard, correct?
You cannot separate story and dialogue from spectacle, and I'm afraid the two are meshed.
I agree with Peter there.
All right. Well, look, let's just go into a little bit of detail about the story. It continues the legacy of Jake Sully, the Sam Worthington character, and in the original, he was a paraplegic Marine grieving the death of his twin brother, and he was desperately searching for a new path in life. And now he's the happily married patriarch of his family, head of the clan, and he fully inhabits his Na'vi body. And he and his wife, played by or voiced by Zoe Saldana, they've got 4 children, a couple of boys and a couple of girls. There's one called Natayam, there's another called Loak, then there's Took, and an adopted teenage daughter called Kiri. And the Kiri is voiced by Sigourney Weaver. Now, all is sweet and life's good for more than a decade before human beings, sky people, return to this moon, which is named Pandora, in force, in large numbers. And Earth is on the precipice of being uninhabitable. And these raiders, the human beings, want to make Pandora the new home for humanity. And this time, their secret weapon, not to overlook what they bring by way of land, air, and sea force and vehicles, is an elite team of soldiers who are resurrected as what are called recombinants. And recombinants, they're autonomous avatars that look like the Na'vi. They're tall, they're lean, they look identical, and they're embedded with the memories of the humans whose DNA was used to create them in the first instance. So autonomous avatars called recombinants.
Are they still avatars, though?
Yes. Yep, they're autonomous avatars. Yes, they are. And leading the fighting force is the recombinant of the soldier that locked horns with Jake in the original motion picture. And he was killed at the end of the first film. And we're talking about Colonel Miles Quaritch, played by the voice of Stephen Lang. And surprise, surprise, not, his target is Jake. Squarely is, who eventually realizes that he has to leave the rainforest on Pandora to try to keep his family safe. And that he and the family reluctantly do. They travel across the vast oceans of Pandora and they arrive at the home of another clan. And these are sea people led by a chief played by the voice of Cliff Curtis and his wife, Kate Winslet. And this is the people that thrive underwater. And it's there where Jake and his family seek and are granted refuge. They have to learn new skills to adapt to their new surroundings. So there's conflict there between the children of the two clans. There's disobedience on the part of the kids. And it's also the story about their coming of age. One that plays an important part is a human being nicknamed Spider, played by the voice of Jack Champion. He's an orphan. He's a bundle of energy. He stayed on after the last war, and he feels like a Na'vi. He's kind of this wild child. And he's close friends with Jake's children, hangs out with them all the time. Notwithstanding internal conflict, the very real spectre of Colonel Miles Quaritch and his mercenaries continues to loom large, and they will continue to hunt for Jake, and nothing is going to stop them. That's what the story is all about. Now, okay, so let's go into the story. I mean, Fred, you said to me...
I just wanted to correct you quickly, Alex.
Please.
You said Stephen Lang was voice acting and Sigourney Weaver was voice acting. It's all really them.
Well, it is. Yeah, that's true.
They're
Okay.
all actually acting. It's rotoscoped motion capture.
Yeah, a very, very good point, Fred. Yeah, very good point. And I suppose I was looking at them in their Navi form, and I couldn't recognise them, so that's why I said voice of. Yes, that's quite correct. Thank you. And I wish I could backtrack, but I can't. So okay, now the story itself, Fred. You said to me, you know, it's more of the same.
Exactly the same as the first film.
Okay, well, I want to get some commentary on that. Jackie, do you think it is or it isn't?
What was the question? Do I think what is or what isn't?
Do you think the story is identical to the first story?
No, the story is not identical, but it's very nice to have you run through that, because it's having been 13 years since the original Avatar, I'd kind of forgotten what the story was or the details of the story, even though I remembered the gist of the film and, more than anything, the visuals of it and my emotional reaction to it, which was a thorough enjoyment of it. But because I'd forgotten the details, I really would have liked a little bit of a catch up in this, and I don't think that this Avatar: The Way of the Water gave me that. So I was a little bit lost. I was completely lost in actually what was happening, and because the story didn't even really get even, shall we say, mildly interesting, I lost interest in that, and I just enjoyed the visuals of it in the end, I guess.
I wasn't emotionally invested in anybody in the movie.
I wasn't at all. And to me, it was a whole lot of war, a whole lot of fighting and bombs and killing and guns. And then it tried to soften that with the other side of the family connections. But because I didn't understand, or I hadn't remembered, how those connections came about, there was a kind of a looseness to it. So I didn't really, connect with them, if you like. And I just think with 15 years and $400 million budget, they might have written it a little more interesting.
Okay, so let me just make a comment here. In November, I think it was November, they re-released the original Avatar, which I had the good fortune to see. Peter, did you see it again at the time?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Now, they did that deliberately so that people like Jackie could basically take a second look before the new movie came out. Obviously, you didn't get...
That proves that the sequel has not picked up the threads and given it to the people who either didn't have the opportunity or couldn't be bothered going to see the first one again, doesn't it?
I don't think that proves it at all. I think that's not the correct... Again, we like you being wrong.
Do you think you could come in fresh to this after 13 years of having seen the first one and know what was going on?
Well, look, often this is not... I mean, you think about Top Gun Maverick, right? That didn't go back... that didn't go back over the...
That was a duplicate of the first Top Gun.
Top Gun was just a remake of the first one.
You didn't need to know the first.
But, okay, I use that as an example because it's 36 years. But there are other sequels where a lot of time passes and they don't recap. Now, okay, I take your point. Yeah, a number would, a number wouldn't. Peter, did it trouble you that they didn't recap or give you a little bit of a starter?
No, not particularly. But if you look at the original, which supposedly professed non-violence and harmony and cultural inclusiveness, etc., it is just so boringly done in this second version, this new version of Avatar. It is so bloated.
Peter, we're struggling to hear you. You've got it's a really bad connection. It sounds like you're outside in the middle of traffic.
I shouldn't be. I should be quite clear.
You get it. You're improving. You're improving now. So we'll just
on the way to the next movie.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So okay. So Peter, just repeat what you just said, please.
Oh, I just said for the original film professed to be about harmony and pacifism and family and etc. But instead, this new version is just a rehash of the original without furthering the story at all. And in fact, it's so bloated and cliche-ridden that I really got annoyed with the film by the end of it, even though it is, with the high frame rate and the 3D, quite a spectacle to look at.
Well,
Perfectly
it's interesting
said.
it's interesting that you said that, because I don't agree with you. It's extraordinary how heavily invested I felt in a movie which relies upon the latest and greatest immersive CGI. I really cared deeply about the characters, unlike Jackie, and their story arc. I mean, I thought this was an unqualified stunner. I really did. And having said that, I would agree with you that it's a familiar type story. I mean, it goes in the direction that I kind of expected it to go. But I mean, the family, the society, the story overview, the family, the society machinations. It does follow a familiar and expected route, but I still think the realization of it is truly masterful. And for a magnificent looking film that runs for 3 hours and 12 minutes, as I said, half an hour more than the first one, I did not find the length to be an issue. And I usually do, Greg, do I not? I usually comment upon the length of movies. And it's been an interesting week because we've seen 4 movies this week, Monday through to Thursday, and many of us have, and all of them will be nominated for Oscars. So, we haven't had the Oscar nominations, but I feel fully confident. All of them, the shortest film that I saw this week was over 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I think most of them were sustained. Only one of them wasn't. But, so again, I think Peter Krause, you say this to us all the time, that it depends on the movie. The running time is not consequential. It depends on whether the movie's good, bad, or indifferent, correct?
Absolutely correct.
Okay. So, what about the enormous effort and resources, Fred, that James Cameron has put into getting the fine detail just right? You've got to admire that.
I mean, I saw an interview recently with Sam Worthington, and he said, he was being interviewed on the project only a week ago, and he said James Cameron is still working on the movie.
Sorry, still working on the movie?
Still working on the movie a week ago. This days before it was released.
Wow.
That's how committed he is. But look, Cameron is one of the greatest directors in the world. What do you mean?
Well, how can he still be working on it a week ago?
Well, it's digital. It's not. The film is not shot on film.
Yeah, but it's
still make last-minute adjustments before it's released. Absolutely.
Well, maybe he could have written in something more interesting in the storyline then, in the narrative.
I totally agree with you, Jackie.
I think they took that much effort and time and money into one aspect of it and not balance that out by keeping us, mentally entertained.
If you look at Cameron's work in the past, his films were such a jump over their predecessors. Look at Aliens, which was an enormous jump above Alien, and then Terminator 2, enormous jump above Terminator 1. His work is incredibly revolutionary in all aspects. But I just thought the first thing that crossed my mind when I finished watching Avatar 2 was, this is what we've waited 13 years for?
He's trying to spread it over the 4 sequels then. So he's not trying to, give us too much in the second one because so many more are coming. Perhaps that's it.
Well, I joked that with the Katia twins, that the third film is probably going to be set in the snow, and the fourth film is going to be set in space. Because that's all that he seems to be doing with this to differentiate the movies between one another. Just changing the location and the scenery.
The environment that was wonderful. The water environment really made it stand out. We'll remember it for that, really.
Visually, the film was astounding, but I was still very disappointed because the story for me is the most important. Always has been, always will be.
But the characters are readily relatable. I mean, there's love.
They're not, Alex. I spent half the film trying to work out who was who.
Okay, I found them very easily relatable. You're talking about love, family, you're talking about friendship, the issue of trust, yearning, betrayal is there, anger, hatred. They're the dominant.
All of that was in the first film as well.
Yeah, but hang on. How many
films?
Let's be honest, most films deal with these human emotions. And
so does The Fabelmans, and you hated it.
No, hang on. We're not allowed to talk about the Fablemans, so we will not talk about the Fablemans.
Right.
But look, I thought this was. I mean, Jake continues to play a pivotal role, including squaring off with the Miles Quaritch character. But much of the focus in this movie is on his second son and his adopted daughter. That was not the focus of the first one, Fred. No. I mean, you answer that.
Well, it is. If you look at the parallels between both films, right? I don't want to spoil anything to your listeners.
No, please don't.
But okay, here are the similarities in an abstract way.
Okay.
Sam Worthington is the main character in the first film.
Yes.
And you see him trying to fit in with the Na'vi even after they find out that he's an avatar.
Mm-hmm.
In the second movie, the Na'vi are now trying to fit in with this other tribe. And so both films, you see the character, the main character, whether it be just Sam Worthington or in the second film, his family, they're trying to prove themselves to these other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go through the same trials and the same tribulations and the same obstacles and the same emotional roller coasters to try and fit in. And once they fit in, they work together to defeat their common foe.
Yeah,
the exact same thing happens in both.
I suppose that for those people who want to, if we look at this on a human level, for those people who don't fit in for whatever reason or don't feel they're part of society or outsiders and whatever, that resonates often for people throughout their lives. So I reckon that's relatable. I understand.
It's relatable, but how many times can you do it to death?
All right. So what would you have liked to see? I mean, again, you're not James Cameron, but what visionary way would you like?
If I was, I actually thought about this in great depth. If I was him, I would have focused the entire second movie on now the humans have left our planet. Now we are here alone, picking up, from the damage that was caused by that invasion. Now let's explore the relationships, not just between the Na'vi, but the different tribes that live on Pandora.
Okay, but guess what you would have had? You would have had conflict then, Fred.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. Even among the same species, Alex, species,
yes,
there is conflict.
Yes, of course there is, and there isn't. Of course, if you think about the planet that we're on, there is. But
exactly.
But sorry. So in the first one, you'd have conflict between humans and the Na'vi, and in the second one, you'd have internal conflict on this moon planet. So
yes, and then the third. That's what would have made the third film so interesting. Is that in the second movie, there was conflict between the tribes. And then in the third film, 15, 20 years later, when the humans return, these tribes have to, throw away their differences and come together to defeat their common foe.
Yeah, but again, all of this has been done before. None of what you've told me is in any way original. I'm sorry. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I mean, all of that we've seen this in other movies, and whether they do it one way or the other,
I like Fred's narrative there. I think Fred's got it. I think Fred's nailed it. Good on you, Fred. Could you send that to him?
No, but what I mean is we want to know more about Pandora. And I don't feel like in the first film we really got to know the planet and all the creatures and the species that exist on it. I thought it was a missed opportunity for Cameron to explore the planet so we got to know it better before the third film has this epic battle.
All right. Now, Peter Krause, you've heard what Fred's rewrite of Avatar 2. What would you like to have seen? Because you've also been critical.
Well, I'd be more interested in what happened to that precious mineral that was so important.
Yeah.
That seems to have unobtainium. That seems to have disappeared.
What a stupid name.
Oh, ridiculous. And I agree with you, Fred. I would have liked more of that storyline to be developed in terms of the tribes. I mean, this film revels in violence and in bloodshed and in conflict when it's supposed to be, originally, was supposed to be set up as a way of dealing with conflict and dealing with pacifism and harmony. And so this has turned into a Marvel film.
Yeah. Well, how is unobtainium better than vibrate? Is it vibratium or vibranium or
it's just a MacGuffin, Alex. It's just a MacGuffin.
It's just a MacGuffin, exactly. Which film was this in, Peter, that we saw recently with Vibranium?
Wakanda, Black
Wakanda,
Panther.
yeah.
Right. Sorry, what was that, Greg?
Black Panther.
Black Panther, exactly. So, these names, maybe they can be a little bit more inventive about it. So, I mean, I think that I'm the only one who thought this was an excellent sequel. Am I correct, Jackie?
No, many people like it.
No, I'm talking about amongst us.
Oh, amongst us,
Yeah, amongst us. I mean, none of you.
We need to give our scores now, because if we're going to do our end of year best.
Yeah. We are there, Jackie, so that's fine. I reckon it builds on the plaudits rightfully afforded to Avatar 13 years ago. I'll give my score last. We'll go from tallest to shortest. So we'll start off with you, Fred.
Look, if this film had come out 3, 4, 5 years after the first film, I think I would have given it a higher score. But we've waited 13 years for something very special, and he didn't deliver. So on that basis, I'd give it a 6, 6.5.
Peter Krause.
It is a spectacle to look at. It really is a technical marvel, but it is a washout in terms of the story. It's very disappointing, cliche-ridden. I can just barely give it 5 out of 10.
Oh, my golly.
Wow. Okay.
That's extremely harsh. Jackie Hamilton.
I'm going to agree with everything Peter and Fred said, so that 3 of us are right. However, I'm feeling a little more generous at this time of year, and I did enjoy myself. I didn't have a problem for 3 hours, so I'm giving it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Well, it's all right. All 3 of you can be wrong. You're dismissed now from reviewing.
That's a good point from Jackie, by the way. I wasn't bored at all throughout the film. I was not bored.
Peter, were you bored?
I probably won't see it again anytime soon.
Peter, were you bored?
I was, by the time it got to the halfway stage, I was bored. I was hoping for something different, unusual, different from the cliches that I was being given. So, yes, I was looking at my watch about the 2-hour mark.
Wow. Okay. I'm giving it an 8.5 to 9 out of 10. I thought it was a terrific sequel. Really enjoyed it. And all of you are excused, as I've said. You're listening to Fred K. Levitt, we should say, Peter Krause, Jackie Hamilton, and Gregory King. Top 10, bottom 10. We are just going to race through the bottom 10 to begin with. Greg, we've hardly heard from you, so because you'll catch up on Avatar: The Way of Water shortly. So tell us the bottom 10, working your way up from 10 to 1, please. Greg?
I'm just going to give you the films I enjoyed the least this year, if you like.
Okay. Yep, that's fine.
And the worst film, clearly, for me, was Jackass Forever. It was more painful sitting through this film than it was anything the guys underwent in terms of physical punishment.
Just give us names, please, mate, because we won't.
Jackass Forever. So Off the Rails, I didn't like much either. Man of God, I didn't like. I found it really boring. The Secrets of Dumbledore wasn't all that flash. Special effects, but I lost the plot for me. A thing called Dash Cam, which was another variation of found footage film there, and a lot of running and screaming, but not much there. And look, I'm over these Marvel films, even though they're not the worst films of the year. I just felt bludgeoned into submission by the succession of films like Black Adam and that. Fair
enough. All right, Peter Krause, the ones you didn't like?
Okay, the 2 just outside my worst 10 were Lost City and Jackass Forever. I agree with you, Greg. Now, the worst 10 films of the year, going backwards from number 10 to number 1. Don't Worry, Darling, very disappointing. Where the Crawdads Sing, pretty bad. Lightyear, very disappointing. Marry Me, a washout of a story. Ticket to Paradise, a waste of time. Jurassic World Dominion, a totally unnecessary sequel. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, terrible animation. Morbius, a terrible Marvel film, really bad. Wog Boys Forever, totally unnecessary follow-up. And the worst film of the year is definitely The House of Gucci, a total wasted opportunity of a good story.
How wrong you can possibly be. Jackie, what did you what I mean, it just staggers me. Jackie, go.
Just to show how clever I am, I managed to avoid every single film that Greg mentioned on his list.
Very
How's that?
Well,
true.
there you go. Well done, you, Jackie.
And,
I suffer for you. I suffer so you didn't have to.
Excellent. I did see a few of Peter's, and I agree with some. My, funnily enough, I have 9 worst films. I couldn't find another one just to shove in for the sake of it. So these are my worst 5, going up to the worst. Dog, the Channing Tatum making friends with the dog.
Oh,
Jordan Peele disappointment about aliens. You had to have your Wikipedia open to even understand it.
you're talking Nope, are you?
No,
Nope.
yes. Jurassic World Dominion, same as Peter. Where the Crawdads Sing, same as Peter. The Good Boss, that Spanish alleged comedy. A Stitch in Time, about an old lady who sews dresses on a sewing machine. Oh, my God. Is it Bros? Bros, the two
BROS, yeah.
gay... no, couldn't do
high
that.
five.
Everything in Between, an Australian, shall we say, state of depression. And the worst film for the year for me was Hocus Pocus 2.
All right. You still haven't got you still haven't got my top 3 are not in yours so far. Fred, just briefly, because we got to
Yeah.
give it.
I just have to preface quickly. I avoided half the films that came out this year, like Jackie.
Okay.
So these
Go
are the
for it.
films that I saw, which are horrible.
Mhm.
Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness,
Mhm.
Jurassic Park Dominion, Walk Boy Forever, Thor, Love and Thunder, Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, Men, Crimes of the Future, Halloween Ends, Pinocchio, and Fantastic Beasts: Secrets of Dumbledore. I almost died during that screening.
All right. Well, look, none of you have mentioned my worst 3. With dishonourable mentions to Blacklight, the Liam Neeson film, and Girl at the Window, which is the Australian horror thriller with Radha Mitchell. Going up from 10, Beast, Murder Party, the silly French mystery comedy, Black Adam, that's been mentioned, Nope, which was also mentioned by Jackie, After Ever Happy, which is this melodramatic teen romance. It's a franchise. Men, which has also got a mention at number 5. Off the Rails, which I think Greg mentioned. That's 4. Now, my worst 3, Book of Love, which was this appalling comedic romance. A couple of writers thrown together on a book tour of Mexico starring Sam Claflin.
Wasn't that bad?
That was appalling, Jackie. You got no taste whatsoever.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I said, yeah.
Yeah. The Northman, which was this horrible action drama from Robert Eggers about a young Viking prince out to avenge his father's murder, Alexander Skarsgård, Nicole Kidman, and Klaus Bang. And the worst movie... Sorry?
A whole lot of blood.
And a whole lot of blood. The worst movie, which I gave 0, I would have given a negative mark if that was possible too, which was a total and utter waste of time. Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters' totally unworthy comedic horror, Studio 666.
Was that even released in the cinema?
Yes.
Oh,
Briefly.
Yes.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, I remember dear old Dave, who's not with us today, because I think he's a big Foo Fighters fan, didn't mind it. And I'm thinking, oh, my golly. And his taste is usually better than the rest of yours. So there you go. You like that little aside? There we go. We are on first on film and entertainment on JAir 88 FM. We're going to have to race through the top 10 films as well. And I know there's not going to be a lot of honourable mentions. We probably won't have time for those. So we'll just go straight to the top 10. If we have time at the end, we will add those. So let's start with you, Jackie Hamilton, working up from 10 to 1.
Okay, from 10 to 1. Actually, I've got 10 best runner-up, and then my...
No, we don't want your runners-up. We haven't got time.
Sorry, that's the way I do it. Okay, sorry about this. I think it was Peter, but House of Gucci is in my best runner-up films. Quo Vadis Aida, set in the Bosnian Wars in the 90s, about the translator in the peacekeeping force there in the UN.
What's the name of that movie?
Quo Vadis Aida.
Yes.
Okay, I have
Yes,
not heard of that.
Great movie. Mm-hmm.
Brilliant film. She's got her family in the US base, and there's and it leads to a slaughter of, in Srebrenica.
I'm going to check that out.
Everything Went Fine, which is a French film about two sisters and their incapacitated father who requires them to help with a sister dying. It's actually very moving and very funny as well, based on a true story. Happening, again, based on a true story, the 1963, a girl who is seeking an illegal abortion and what it does to her life, being in a situation where it is illegal for her to do this. After Yang, which is a little bit of a sci-fi, which is unusual for me, but it was an absolutely beautiful film about family and connection and memory and nature versus nurture, and it's quite melancholy and really beautiful and quiet, and it's got a Japanese aesthetic. I love that.
Bicentennial
Next, I'm sorry, Fred.
No.
Keep on going, guys. We're going to run out of time. Yep.
Is Come On, which is the Joaquin Phoenix about an uncle who finds a connection with his nephew when he has to kind of look after him for his sister in New York. And I just thought it was in black and white, and the flashbacks are in colour, and it was a little bit different and a beautiful story. My next one is Glass Onion, which is just a good old-fashioned mystery with characters and red herrings, thoroughly enjoyable. Matilda, the one just in the cinemas, I think last week. Tim Minchin lyrics, based on the stage musical that he wrote for on the Roald Dahl book. Totally joyous.
Had you seen the actual stage production?
Yes, it's one of my favourite musicals of all time, and the film is just as I laughed, I cried, it's beautiful. The next one on my list, Everything Everywhere All at Once, for its mind-blowing originality,
I was disappointed. Keep going.
Love that movie.
He's so funny. It's so worth it just to see Jamie Lee Curtis as that pot-bellied IRS investigator. Really enjoyable. The next one, just out of my top, is Elvis, which I just loved every minute of it. I was carried away.
How many movies have you talked about so far? Where are we in your top 10?
That's 9.
Jackie, you'll take up the rest of this program. Let's keep going.
If you stopped going on at me, I would have finished by now. But now, can I have my drum roll now?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, you got the drum roll. Just do it.
So, top film of 2022 for me is a draw.
It's a draw. It's a draw. Come on, you got to separate. I mean, hang on. If in the World Cup,
films got 10 out of 10 from me, and these are the two.
Yeah, but in a World Cup final, there's if you at the end of extra time and the scores are locked, you have to have a penalty shootout. Which one wins?
The top 2 of 2022 are The Forgiven and A Hero.
Oh, I love you, Jackie.
Okay, hang on. The Forgiven, and what was the other one?
A Hero, Asghar Farhadi, in the Persian language, about a man who's in jail for a debt, and his life turns upside down.
Right. Very good, Jackie. Okay, terrific. Now, Greg King, can you give us your top 10, please?
Well, I've got a couple more than 10 to go through, a bit like Jackie there.
All right, I'm going to move you quickly because...
But I'll do it my way, thank you. I haven't had much to say all day. I'm going to start with what was a guilty pleasure for me, which was Violent Night, which is a cross between Die Hard and Home Alone, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But other films I put on my list were Quo Vadis Aida, which Jackie's already mentioned. Escape from Mogadishu, a Korean film, kinetic energy, frenetic, and lots of energy. I like The Phantom of the Open. My films are ones I enjoyed, not necessarily the best films. So The Phantom of the Open with Mark Rylance. I actually like The Grey Man, non-stop action there. Fall, the two girls stuck on top of that tower there was very vertiginous. Farewell, Mr. Halfman with Daniel Ortiz. Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon. The more it went on, the more I found myself engaged and hooked by the film. Bones and All. Uncomfortable subject matter, but it's a coming-of-age teen romance, cannibal love story. Compromat, the French film about the French guy stuck behind, thrown in jail, and for crimes he didn't commit, but shut him up. I like Jackie, I liked Elvis. I thought Baz Luhrmann's flashy visual style there, frenetic start there, but I thought Austin Butler did a great job of capturing Elvis's style. I liked Barbarian. It was a good year for horror films. Barbarian and X, about the 20-somethings who go to a farm in Texas to shoot a porn movie and end up being the stars of their horror splatter horror film. I actually like Bros as well, and I also like Top Gun Maverick.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, now, so is there a top? Was there a top film of the year?
I haven't given a top film yet. They're the ones. They're my.
Okay. Greg,
they're the ones I enjoyed most.
All right, so let's go for it. Go for it, please, from 10 to 1. Hello?
Who?
Sorry. So there isn't you don't actually have a top film of the year?
I haven't worked it out completely yet. I've been rushing through other things. Sorry, Alex. They're the ones I enjoyed most for this year.
Okay, got it. No problems at all. All right, Peter Krause, go for it, please.
Okay, and now I've kept documentaries separate, so let's go through the best 10 films of the year, starting at number 10, Preparations to Be Together for a Long Period of Time,
yes, from
Hungary, excellent film. Number 9, Everything Everywhere All at Once, terrific film. Number 8, Bardo, A False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths, the Inarito film from Mexico. Number 7, I Had All Quiet on the Western Front from Germany, terrific submission there. Number 6, White Noise, the Noah Baumbach film. Number 5, Memoria with Tilda Swinton, quite a resonant film, that one for me. Number 4, Decision to Leave from Korea. Number 3, The Banshees of Inisherin. Number 2, Triangle of Sadness. And the best film of the year is the one that we saw very early in the year, Drive My Car from Japan. Just a great film.
But I checked that out. That was released last year, was it not?
No, I had it listed as a January release.
Did you? Because I would have put that number 1, and I when I looked it up this morning, actually, I stand to be corrected, but according to IMDb, I'm just putting this in again. Drive My Car, just to not that it's a movie that people should go and see. I'm now looking down as to when it was released in Australia. One presumes IMDb is accurate, so I can only go by that. And it's got release dates in various places. So I'm now going to have a look. And it says, I'm looking for Australia as we go down. Australia, you know what it's done? Sydney Film Festival, 12th of November 2021. So the Sydney Film Festival isn't right around Australia. So perhaps it was released in cinemas around Australia this year, Peter.
Yes, it was definitely January release.
Definitely January release. Okay, good stuff. Now, just your top 3 documentaries then, Peter.
Top 3 documentaries were Ablaze, the Australian film about the Aboriginal filmmaker, Eternal Spring, Canada's submission for the Oscars, and the best documentary of the year, Ennio Morricone, The Maestro.
That's a great documentary.
Which was just done recently. Fred Levitt, thank you very much, Peter. Fred Levitt, your top 10 movies of the year, please.
Okay, number 10. I can't believe we saw this last year, but it came out this year. Nightmare Alley. Absolutely loved it. Number 9 is Speak No Evil. That's the Dutch and Danish film about a family who meets another family on a holiday, and they're invited back to their. It's a brilliant film. For those who haven't seen it, go watch it. It's really scary. Number 8, Compromat. I think
Compromat's a terrific movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 7, Armageddon Time with Anthony Hopkins and Anne Hathaway. Brilliant film.
It's interesting. Jackie Hamilton, you mentioned Armageddon Time to me, but it wasn't even in your under.
No, it's in my recommended. It's just below. It's just out of my top.
It's out of your top 57. Okay, got it. Keep going.
You didn't like it, Alex?
No, I thought it was terrific. The 2 young stars of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that was my number 7. Number 6, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't need to say any more. I think most of you liked it. Number 5, The Stranger. Easily, hands down, the best Australian film of the year.
Fantastic Australian movie. Yep.
Yeah.
Sean Harris's performance is one of the most.
Oh my God, he's not even Australian.
Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah.
Phenomenal performance. Number 4, the outfit. Can't believe no one mentioned this. It's a brilliant film.
It's a super Mark Rylance. I mean, what a character actor he is.
The entire film is set in one room pretty much, and it's just so suspenseful.
Yeah,
Brilliant
Peter, that did not get a mention with you either. Was that just outside, or what did you think?
Yes, I had quite a few, about 10 other films outside my top 10, including The Stranger as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
Now, number 3 is The Forgiven. I think this was Ralph Fiennes' best film of the year. I really didn't like The Menu. I thought it was total dross.
I like The Menu, but there you go. Mm-hmm.
Number 2, the best documentary, hands down, Navalny, about Alexei Navalny.
Mm-hmm.
And number 1, there is no competition. Top Gun Maverick, from start to finish. Every moment of that film was just pure joy.
Yeah, it's in my top 3 as well. Now, it's very interesting that you mentioned some of these. Peter, given that what you've just said about Drive My Car, that would be my number 1 now. It's interesting. It was I'm torn between 3 in my top 10. I'm torn between the 3 that I had and now the 4 I've had. I'll get to that in a moment. Just briefly, I'm going to quickly go through names and stop me if you disagree in terms of highly recommended. House of Gucci, Quo Vadis, Aida, Operation Mincemeat, nobody's mentioned, which surprised me. The Conference, which was this chilling historic war drama involving a meeting of high-ranking Nazi officials plotting what was known as the final solution. I like the music doco about David Bowie called Moon Age Daydream, even though it was a bit bizarre. Hit the Road, this whimsical family drama from first-time feature filmmaker called Pinar Panahi. Armageddon Time, Bones and All, Glass Onion, and Knives Out Mystery. Did any of you see the documentary I'm Juanita? I thought that was very good.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yes.
It was okay.
Spencer, Preparations to Be Together for an Untold Period of Time. Now, this was the horror film Fresh. I thought that was amazing.
Amazing. And how beautiful is, what's her name? Gosh.
I'm not talking about the beauty of people. I'm talking about the movie itself.
I can't take my eyes off her, though.
Bergman Island impressed me. The Souvenir Part 2, Nobody Has to Know. After Yang, nobody's mentioned. Nobody enjoyed that?
Yeah, someone did mention it.
Oh, did they?
Jackie did.
Jackie, I'm sorry, Jackie.
That's just a remake of Bicentennial Man.
The good boss. Greg, I think you mentioned X.
Yes.
Then Little Tornadoes, I enjoyed. I also enjoyed the animated comedy adventure Minions: The Rise of Gru. Nobody else did? Steve Carell? No?
Yes, we tried to keep it to 10 or so that we were told to. And so far you've said 27.
Exactly, because I just realised we've got another 5 minutes. So I'm monopolising the time. I actually liked Downton Abbey: A New Era. I thought the second spin-off was pretty
My
good.
mum loved that.
Didn't like, Alex?
Sorry?
There was nothing you didn't like from the sounds of it.
Well, hang on. I've given my bottom 10. There's quite a bit here. Then there's compartment number 6. That was the dramatic romance set in the Arctic Circle. I really enjoyed Elvis. I thought The Phantom of the Open, which has been mentioned a couple of times, I thought The Forgiven was magnificent, set in Morocco with Jessica Chastain and Ray Fiennes. Employee of the Month, this wacky French comedy. Nobody's mentioned Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. What a feel-good charm.
My mum loved that movie.
Yeah, Leslie Manville, Isabelle Huppert.
A great film, though, Alex.
I'm sorry, you're wrong again, Jackie. How many times in one segment to be wrong?
By the way, guys, can I just say something quickly? It might not come out in Australia until January, but it's come out everywhere else.
Yes.
The Fabelmans is the best film of the year.
Yeah, okay, we're not allowed to talk about it. There's an embargo.
Embargoed, Fred.
We're not allowed to talk about
I'm just saying it's good.
Yes, it's coming out. The Smile, I thought that was a psychological horror from a debut writer and director called Parker Finn. The Outfit, which was just great, and The Stranger. Now, top 10, from worst of the 10 to the best. The Quiet Girl, the slow burn Irish drama. The Australian documentary about a trauma cleaner called Sandra Pankhurst. Did anybody see Clean? No? Other than me?
I loved it, but,
You loved it, Okay, Come On, which has been mentioned, the Mike Mills drama with Joaquin Phoenix. Happening, which has also been mentioned. Lost Illusions. I thought that was extraordinary. The the historic dramatic romance with Cécile de France. Petite Maman, nobody's mentioned, the beautiful film about childhood, about loss and memories, focusing on an 8-year-old girl's relationship with a mum. A Hero, which I think Jackie mentioned, you can be right occasionally. And this was my dilemma. I had The Banshees of Inisherin, I had Top Gun Maverick, and I had Avatar: The Way of Water, and it was a question of how one sort of puts them. And I would have put Avatar at the top. I would have put Top Gun Maverick number 2 and The Banshees of Inisherin at number 3, but I'm now going to supplant all of those with Drive My Car, thanks to, was that Peter who said, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so there you go. So they're my top 11 films of the year. So anybody else, you've got a couple of minutes left. Anybody else want to add any other movies that people should go along and see? Maybe they're just outside your top 73. Go for it. Jackie, have you got any others that you want to mention?
I had on the list, and it was only hearing someone say The Stranger, Fred saying The Stranger, that I don't know where that vanished off my list. That was certainly in my top 10 when I originally wrote
Brilliant
it.
movie.
So
Sorry, did you also get that wrong, did you, Jackie? That's all right.
The Australian film The Stranger, which is still out, and really recommend that. I just want to throw in there also that I had Nightmare Alley, which somebody else had. I had Hive, which was the story of women whose husbands were missing or killed, who went about starting businesses and faced all sorts of
No problem.
objections.
Can I just say quickly?
We're going to have to wrap things.
Compartment number 6, Full-Time, The French Single Mother.
Jackie, I'm going to have to cut you off. We're about to end the program, but you can keep talking next week, which will be fantastic. Peter, thank you very much. Gregory King, you will hear more of you hopefully next week. Fred, it's been a pleasure having you on board as well. And yeah. I wish that this movie doesn't open till the 26th of January. I wish it was in this year's list. It is called Tar with Cate Blanchett, and boy, oh boy, what a performance. Folks, been pleasure being with you, and I wish you a terrific week, and go along and see some movies. You've been listening to First on Film and Entertainment.